Arthur Bennett was living an ordinary life until, on a deserted road, he found himself rescuing an otherworldly being from a crashed spaceship. Next to the wounded alien was a strange leather pouch that shimmered subtly, an artifact that, according to the alien, belonged to priest Anunnaki 3,000 years. Before we dive deeper, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Grab yourself a warm drink, maybe a cup of tea, or just some water, and sit back as we begin this journey together. The alien stared at Arthur and telepathically said, "You saved my life. By cosmic law, I must repay you, and that repayment is key to your prison." Arthur had no idea what the being was talking about. What prison? Until the alien opened the bag and revealed what was inside. An object that forced him to confront the origin of his life. Inexplicable limitations. You are about to discover what was kept in that bag of the gods and the truth. That explains why you've been repeating certain things in your life for years. Arthur Bennett was 56 years old and absolutely convinced that he was cursed. He didn't believe in curses literally because he wasn't superstitious, but there was no other logical explanation for the pattern that had repeated itself for 32 years. An exceptional carpenter in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Beautiful handcrafted furniture that people admired at fairs. Woodworked with precision and genuine love, but always broken. Living month to month, bank account never exceeding 3 digits, and it wasn't for lack of talent or effort. It was something more disturbing, more inexplicable. A specific pattern always followed. Arthur would make a big sale. The customer would order multiple parts. Money would finally come in. And then, within days, something catastrophic would happen. The car would break down, and the repairs would consume all the profit. Or he himself would get sick, and medical bills would drain everything, or essential equipment would fail and need urgent replacement. And he was back to square one. Always. Every single time. Without exception, in 3 decades. Friends said it was bad luck. His ex-wife said it was financial irresponsibility. But Arthur knew it was neither because the pattern was too precise to be chance and something deeper. A visceral feeling he couldn't explain. When he had money, he felt guilty. Not rational guilt for having spent it wrongly, but existential guilt, as if he didn't deserve to have it. As if prosperity were a transgression against something sacred he couldn't identify. Divorced for 5 years, his ex-wife tired of the instability. He lived alone in a small apartment, his workshop in a tiny backyard. And on that particular night, a Saturday in November 10, driving on a deserted road, returning from a craft fair in Albuquerque, where he had sold only 2 small pieces, family frustration settled in his chest, thinking for the 1,000th time, "I'm good at what I do. Why does this never work?" And that's when he saw a light in the sky. Not a star or a plane, but a bright object descending rapidly, very rapidly. Its trajectory wasn't free fall but controlled as if the pilot were trying to land but losing control. The object passed over the road perhaps 100 meters above with a sharp piercing sound and crashed violently in an open field about 200 meters from the road. An explosion of earth and a pale blue light. Arthur braked instinctively. The car skidding slightly in gravity, pulled over to the side of the road, his heart racing, and sat there for seconds processing. Was it real? A meteor? But meteors don't make controlled turns. And that object definitely maneuvered before falling, and curiosity overcame fear, or perhaps indifference to his own safety after decades of failure, and he got out of the car, jumped over a barbed wire fence, walked across a dry field under a starry sky, towards the impact point where smoke was rising. And when he got close enough, he saw it wasn't a meteor. It was a spaceship, small, maybe 5 meters in diameter. Flattened oval shape, metallic surface, but organic texture. Severe damage on one side. Side door partially open or torn off on impact. Smoke billowing out. Interior lights flashing erratically. And Arthur shouted, his voice echoing in the desert silence. "Is anyone there? Do you need help?" Silence for seconds. Then a faint sound. Something moving inside. And Arthur, against all instinct for self-preservation, approached the entrance. Looked inside. Darkness except for intermittent red and blue lights, and saw a figure lying on the floor near a damaged console. Small, perhaps 5 feet tall, thin body, disproportionately large head, and when the light flickered again, Arthur saw clearly it wasn't human. Silvery gray skin, huge closed eyes, a deep cut on the side of its head, leaking liquid that looked like liquid silver, not red blood. And next to the creature, a detail that Arthur registered even in shock, was a bag, not an ordinary bag, but a magnificent handcrafted object. Leather, or a material that looked like leather but wasn't, an impossible texture, dark brown with subtle golden tones, and it shone slightly, a weak luminescence of its own. And it was closed with a clasp that looked old, handcrafted with symbols that Arthur didn't recognize. Arthur, a carpenter who instinctively appreciated fine craftsmanship, thought briefly, "What an incredible piece of work." But then his focus shifted to the unconscious creature and his instinct to help, the very concept that his survival instinct told him to run one. He entered the craft, crouched down, gently, touched the creature's shoulder, and asked, "Hey, are you alive?" The creature didn't respond, but it was breathing, its chest rising and falling slightly. And Arthur, not knowing what else to do, put his arms under its body and lifted it, surprisingly light, maybe 30 kilos, and carried it out of the craft, lay down on the dry grass, and then went back, picked up the bag, too. He didn't know why, curiosity or intuition that it was important, and ran back to the carrying the alien creature in the back seat and the shiny bag in the passenger seat. He drove not to the hospital because his instinct told him the government would capture the alien and he would never know what happened, but home to a small apartment 15 minutes away and carried the alien inside, lay down on the sofa, got clean cloths and water, carefully cleaned the wound, and while cleaning, he saw something impossible. The cut began to heal on its own, flesh visibly regenerating, slow but undeniable, and within minutes, the wound was closed. Only a faint silver line where the deep cut had been. The alien opened its eyes, enormous black eyes with no visible pupils but infinite depth. And Arthur froze, damp cloth still in his hand, expecting fear, but feeling none. Instead, curiosity mixed with a strange reverence, and then a voice came, not a sound, but directly into his mind, telepathic, clear as if someone were speaking right next to his ear. "You saved my life. You risked your safety to help a being you don't know. A sacred debt has been created. How can I repay you?" Arthur, shocked that he understood perfectly and could respond telepathically even without knowing how, thought, "You don't need to repay anything. Okay. The wound is healing on its own. You will survive." And the alien sat up slowly, touched his own head where the cut was, felt the scar, nodded. "Yes, I will survive, but the cosmic law that governs my race demands retribution when life is saved. I cannot ignore it. And besides," the alien looked directly into Arthur's eyes, penetrating, "I saw your energy when you rescued me. You carry an old blockage, unnecessary suffering that you compulsively repeat, a pattern that you cannot break on your own. I can heal that. It will be my retribution." Arthur, confused, asked, "What are you talking about? What block?" And the alien pointed to the bag Arthur had brought, still on the floor near the door, subtly gleaming in the dim light. "This bag belonged to an Anunnaki priest 3,000 years ago. I am a cosmic archaeologist. I study ancient terrestrial civilizations. I found Sumerian ruins from centuries ago. The ship was hit by a space fragment on its return, crashed here, but the bag survived intact as it always does, made of material that doesn't degrade." Arthur looked at the bag, then at the alien. "What's inside?" And the alien replied, "Sacred objects that Anunnaki priests use to heal human karmic patterns. One of them will show you the origin of your blockage. And when you see the origin, you can release it. This will resolve the sabotage you carry, allowing prosperity that has always been rightfully yours, but that you unconsciously blocked." Arthur felt something stirring in his chest, a mixture of hope and skepticism. "Sabotage? I don't sabotage myself. I work hard, just bad luck." Alien shook his head. "It's not bad luck, Arthur Bennett. It's a pattern engraved in the deep layers of your consciousness. It originated not in this life but in previous ones. Vows you made with intense emotion were recorded. You carry them into each incarnation until they are dissolved. And inside that bag there is a tool that will show exactly when and why you chose poverty as your path. Ready to see? Arthur looked at the bag on the floor, then at the alien sitting on his couch, a faint silver scar gleaming on his forehead where minutes before there had been a deep wound, and asked telepathically, "You said I'm bound by an old vow. What does that mean?" "What kind of vow?" And the alien replied, "Promises made in past lives with intense emotion, engraved in deep layers of the soul, carried through reincarnations until consciously dissolved, common in humans, but rarely identified, causing patterns that modern psychology cannot explain, because the root is not in this life." Arthur, skeptical even in the presence of a telepathic alien in his room, said, "I don't believe in reincarnation, past lives, that kind of thing." The alien tilted its head, a curiously human gesture. "Belief isn't necessary for truth to exist. The pattern you've been repeating for 32 years, financial sabotage every time you prosper, doesn't stem from childhood trauma or conditioning from this life. Have human therapists tried to cure it? Have psychological techniques solved it?" Arthur hesitated. "I tried therapy a few years ago. It didn't work. The therapist said it was self-sabotage, but we couldn't understand why." The alien nodded. "Because the origin is beyond the reach of this life's memory. The tool inside the bag accesses soul memory, not brain memory. It will show you exactly when you chose poverty as your path." The alien stood up, walked to the bag, crouched beside it, and Arthur saw more details now with the room's light on. The craftsmanship was extraordinary. The symbols engraved on the leather were impossible. Cuneiform, Sumerian writing that Arthur vaguely recognized from documentaries, but more elaborate, interwoven with complex geometry. The clasp was a metal mechanism that looked like bronze but shone like gold. Worked with a precision that modern machines would have difficulty replicating. Alien touched the zipper, murmured something Arthur didn't understand. Sounds that weren't words but frequencies, and the zipper clicked open on its own without any physical force applied, just sonic resonance, and opened the bag. And the interior was deeper than the exterior suggested, a geometric impossibility. But there it was, and inside, Arthur saw objects wrapped in dark fabric that also subtly glowed. Alien explained while examining the contents. Anunnaki priests were not merely rulers, as Sumerian texts simplified them. They were healers of souls, studying human karmic patterns, creating tools to identify and dissolve blockages that hindered evolution. This bag belonged to Enki personally, leader of the 7 sages. "I found it in a secret chamber beneath a ruined ziggurat that modern humans never discovered. It was waiting to be found, as if Enki knew that one day it would be needed again." Arthur absorbed it. The name Enki, vaguely familiar from readings on Sumerian myths, and the alien removed the first object, a small, translucent crystal cylinder with golden liquid inside. "Cellular memory elixir, heals DNA damage caused by ancestral traumas." He set it aside, removed the second object, a metallic disc engraved with a spiral. "Frequency harmonizer aligns chakras misaligned by vows of silence." Set it aside and then removed the third object and stopped, held it reverently and said, "This is what we need." It was a mirror, small, perhaps 15 centimeters in diameter, with a circular frame of gold or gilded metal, worked with symbols identical to those on the stock exchange. But the surface was not ordinary reflective glass. It was dark, almost liquid, like still black oil, but with infinite depth. And when Arthur glanced at it, he saw a reflection, but distorted. Not his face, but something deeper. Layers. And he instinctively looked away. A sudden unease. Alien held the mirror carefully. Mirror of the soul, a rare artifact even among the Anunnaki. Only 7 were created. This is one of them. Its surface does not reflect physical light but essence. When you look directly and intentionally, you see not external appearance, but soul records. Previous incarnations, crucial moments where vows were made, patterns you carry, all revealed in reverse chronological sequence, starting with the immediately preceding life. Going back to the origin of the pattern, Arthur felt fear growing. Not fear of the alien or the surreal situation, but fear of seeing. Fear of confronting something that his intuition told him would be devastating. And he asked, "What if I don't want to see? What if I prefer to live like this?" The alien replied gently but firmly, "You can choose. Free will is sacred, but the pattern will continue. The next 32 years will be identical to the last 32. Hard work, wasted talent, perpetual poverty, unconscious sabotage until death, and then the next life. The pattern repeats again because the vote wasn't dissolved. How many more cycles do you want to suffer unnecessarily?" Arthur remained silent for long moments, contemplating 32 years of frustration. A marriage destroyed by financial instability, unrealized potential, and finally said telepathically, his mental voice trembling, "Show me. I want to see where this comes from, even if it hurts." And the alien nodded in approval. "Courage, the trait that allowed you to rescue me when others would have fled, the same courage will set you free now." Alien stood up, sat next to Arthur on the couch, held a mirror between them, its dark surface rippling slightly like disturbed water, and instructed, "Look directly at the center. Don't look away, even if it's frightening. The mirror will show you the truth. Your only task is to witness without judgment. When the first life appears, observe. When it ends, you will breathe, and the next life will appear. The sequence will continue until the origin of the vote is revealed. Understood?" Arthur nodded, his throat dry, and looked directly at the dark surface of the mirror. Initially, he saw only darkness. Then, a faint golden glow appeared in the center, expanding, and suddenly, he was no longer in the small living room in Santa Fe, but in a completely different place, not physically, but consciously, transported, and he was seeing through the eyes of another person, or not another person but himself, a past version, and he instantly recognized himself, even though he had never seen him before. Deep memory activating. And he was in a monastery, cold stone walls, flickering candles, and a stern voice echoing, and Arthur understood he was seeing a past life, the first layer of imprisonment he carried without knowing. Alien narrated telepathically, softly, not interrupting the vision, but guiding it. "Italy, year 1450. According to the human calendar, you were a Franciscan monk, young, 25 years old. Ceremony of perpetual vows. Crucial moment that engraved a pattern. Observe without resisting, only witness." And Arthur, through the eyes of a monk, saw a stern superior holding a Bible, other monks in a semicircle observing, and the superior saying in Latin, which Arthur understood telepathically translated, "You will renounce all earthly possessions. You will live in perpetual poverty. Wealth is a sin that separates you from God. Only through material detachment will you reach heaven. Do you swear?" And Arthur felt, not only saw, but felt the emotion of that moment. Deep conviction, genuine religious fervor. And the monk that he was responded with a firm voice full of devotion, "I swear I renounce possessions. I accept eternal poverty. Wealth is a sin." And as he said it, he felt pride, purpose, absolute certainty that he was making a sacred choice. And the scene sped up. The entire life of that monk compressed into minutes, 60 years living in a tiny cell, worn-out clothes, meager food, constant cold, but always with pride. "I am poor as Christ was poor. I am pure." And on his deathbed, 82 years old, his final thought before expiring, "I lived righteously, poverty purified me. I die holy and profound satisfaction." And then darkness, life ending. And Arthur returned to the room, panting, the mirror still between him and the alien, its surface rippling, preparing for the next vision. And the alien said softly, "First layer revealed. Vow of poverty made with total conviction. Recorded. But there's more. The pattern was reinforced in previous lives. The mirror will show. Breathe. Prepare yourself." Arthur took a deep breath, trembling slightly. This life was real. The memory wasn't imagination, but a genuine recollection. Before he could fully process it, the mirror's surface shone again, a more intense gold, and Arthur was pulled back in time once more. He was in a completely different place, a hot desert, a white linen tunic. He recognized it, ancient Egypt, and he was about to see the second layer of prison he had built for himself over millennia. Arthur was pulled back into the mirror again, his consciousness traversing time as if millennia were water. And suddenly, he was under a scorching sun, a rough white linen tunic against his skin, simple leather sandals, and he was sitting on a cold stone floor inside an Egyptian temple, enormous pillars all around engraved with hieroglyphs, and in front of him, a low table covered with papyrus, black ink in a clay pot, a reed brush in a hand that wasn't his hand, but was the hand of who he had been. Alien narrated telepathically in a soft voice, Egypt 1800 BC. You were a temple scribe, a copyist of sacred texts, a respected but humble job. Observe the crucial moment approaching. And Arthur, through the eyes of a scribe, saw the temple door open, intense light entering, and a figure entering, a tall man in luxurious robes, gold around his neck and wrists, a servant of the pharaoh. And he approached the scribe that Arthur was, and spoke in an ancient language that Arthur understood telepathically. The great pharaoh has noticed your talent, your impeccable writing, your vast knowledge. He offers you a position in the court, royal scribe. You will reside in a palace. You will receive gold, lands, servants, immense honor. Do you accept? And Arthur felt through the scribe a genuine temptation, a part of him wanting to accept a comfortable life, security. But then a stronger voice inside said, wealth corrupts the soul. True servants of gods live in simplicity. And the scribe replied firmly, I thank Pharaoh for the honor, but my place is here, serving gods in humility. I cannot accept riches. It would corrupt my sacred work. The servant insisted, Are you sure? A rare opportunity, many would kill for it. And the scribe, full of pride disguised as humility, replied, Absolutely certain. Poverty is purity. Wealth is a distraction from the divine. I choose to remain poor. And the scene sped up. The life of that scribe, decades copying texts, sleeping in a small cell in the temple, simple food, minimal possessions, but always with satisfaction. I live righteously. I have not been corrupted by gold. And on his deathbed, 62 years old, surrounded only by monks from the temple, his final thought, I died pure. I did not sell myself. Poverty was my victory and profound pride. And then darkness, life ending. Arthur returned breathless to the room, the mirror rippling, and the alien said, Second layer reinforced vow. You refused freely offered wealth because you believed poverty was holiness. The pattern deepened. But there is a third, more powerful true origin. The mirror will show you now. And before Arthur could protest, emotionally exhausted, the mirror's surface shone intensely, pure gold, and he was pulled even deeper into time. And he was in a cold cave in the Himalayas, the air thin, and he wore a worn woolen cloak, a long gray beard. And Arthur recognized him, a Tibetan monk, and he had been alone in the cave for decades in deep meditation, total renunciation of the material world. Alien narrated, his voice now more serious. Tibet, year 1200 of the Common Era. You were an ascetic monk. You chose extreme isolation. You possessed only an alms bowl and this cloak. You lived in a cave for 40 years. This is the most crucial moment. Observe carefully. And Arthur, through the eyes of an old monk, felt his frail body, a penetrating cold. He knew death was near. Days, perhaps hours, and there was no fear. There was profound peace. And a thought arising, not casual but deliberate, a conscious choice being made on the threshold between life and death. Poverty freed me in this life. I let go of material attachments. I achieved clarity that wealth would never allow. And in the next life, if there is a next life, I will choose poverty again. It is the path to enlightenment. I decree this now, that in all future lives, I choose poverty over wealth, simplicity over abundance. This is my eternal vow. And with that thought, the monk breathed his last, dying in absolute peace. But that final thought remained etched in his memory, a command to his soul, a profound programming. I will choose poverty in future lives. And the energy of that vow was different from others. It was not a promise forced by a religious institution but a conscious choice at the most powerful moment, the moment of death where the veil between dimensions is thinnest and intentions are permanently imprinted. Arthur rushed back into the room as if expelled from the mirror and was crying without realizing it, tears streaming down his face, not of sadness, but of devastating recognition. The alien set the mirror aside, waited for Arthur to process, and then said telepathically, "Now you see the complete origin. 3 lives where you chose poverty, believing it to be a spiritual path. First, as a Franciscan monk bound by institutional vows. Second, as an Egyptian scribe, refusing wealth out of pride disguised as purity. Third, as a Tibetan monk making a conscious vow at the moment of death. This last one was the most powerful because it was deliberate. The soul programmed itself. Choose poverty in future lives." Arthur asked between sobs, his voice. "So, I'm not cursed. I'm not flawed. I'm just fulfilling a vow I made 800 years ago." Alien nodded. "Exactly. Your subconscious obeys ancient programming. When money comes, an internal alarm goes off. This violates a vow. This distances you from the divine and sabotage happens automatically. Accidents, illness, broken equipment. It's not bad luck. It's an internal mechanism ensuring you fulfill your vow. Even if you don't consciously remember it, the soul remembers, and the soul is more powerful than the conscious mind." Arthur wiped his face with a trembling hand. "But those lives were sincere. Do the monks truly believe that poverty was sacred? Weren't they wrong?" And the alien replied, "They weren't wrong in their context. In times when wealth meant exploitation of others, oppression, corruption, poverty was a valid ethical choice. But context has changed. Today, wealth can be used for good. It can serve others, heal, create beauty, uplift, and, most importantly, a vow that was appropriate for one life. Doesn't need to imprison all future lives. It served a purpose at that moment. It no longer serves a purpose now, and you have the power to release it." Arthur looked at the alien with hope mixed with skepticism. How vows recorded centuries ago can be dissolved like that? And the alien pointed to the mirror. "Seeing the origin is the first step, conscious recognition. You brought the pattern from the unconscious to the conscious. Now it can be worked on. The second step is a verbal declaration of release. Words have power when spoken with sincere intention. It's not magic. It's the mechanics of consciousness. The soul responds when you command clearly. But before teaching the ritual of release, you need to understand something crucial about karmic vows in general because this pattern is not unique to you. Millions carry similar vows without knowing it." Alien stood up, walked to the window, looked at the Santa Fe night sky, the stars shining, and continued telepathically. "Karmic vows are promises made in past lives with intense emotion. They are engraved in deep layers of the soul, carried through reincarnations, remain active until consciously dissolved. Common types include a vow of poverty like yours, but also a vow of celibacy that causes sabotage in relationships, a vow of silence that causes fear of expression, a vow of martyrdom that causes patterns of perpetual suffering, and others, each creating a specific pattern in this life." Arthur absorbed that, his mind racing. How does a person identify if they have a karmic vow? And the alien turned huge black eyes meeting Arthur's. 3 signs. First, a destructive pattern that repeats itself, despite sincere efforts to change. Second, conventional therapy doesn't solve it because the root isn't in trauma from this life. Third, inexplicable guilt when violating the pattern, like you feel guilty when you have money for no rational reason. These 3 together indicate an active karmic vow. And the alien went back to the sofa, sat next to Arthur. "And now that you've seen the origin of your vow, that you understand the mechanism, you're ready for the second step, the ritual of release. It's simple, but it must be done with total intention, without doubt, without reservations. Because the soul only releases a vow when you are absolutely certain that it no longer serves that purpose." "Ready to learn?" Arthur looked at the alien, cautious hope growing. "Teach me. I want to release this. I can't stand repeating the same pattern for another 32 years. And the alien nodded. "I will teach you, but first understand the mechanics of what you will do. It's not magic or religious ritual. It's direct communication with your own soul, using language that the soul understands. Clear verbal intention. Alien picked up the mirror again, held it between them, its dark surface now calm. The soul operates on deeper layers than the conscious mind. The conscious mind may desire wealth, but if the soul carries a vow of poverty, the soul always wins. The soul is older, more powerful, and has access to mechanisms that the conscious mind cannot reach. That's why sabotage happens automatically. You're not consciously sabotaging. It is the soul executing ancient programming, and the only way to change the soul's programming is to speak directly to it in a language it recognizes. Arthur asked, "What language?" And the alien replied, "Recognition plus declaration. First, you acknowledge that the vow exists. You validate that it served a purpose in a previous context. This is crucial because the soul does not release what it feels rejected. Then you declare that the vow no longer serves a purpose in the present context. And finally, you command its release with authority, not asking but decreeing because you are sovereign over your own soul, not a victim of it." And the alien continued, "Ritual has 3 parts: recognition, validation, release. I will do it with you now. You will repeat the words I say, but not mechanically. You will feel each word. Allow emotion to flow. If tears come, let them come. If anger arises, let it out. Emotion is a vehicle that carries intention to deeper layers. Words without emotion are useless. Understood?" Arthur nodded, his throat tight with anticipation, and the alien instructed, "Close your eyes, take 3 deep breaths, center yourself." Arthur obeyed, taking deep breaths, his body relaxing slightly, and the alien said telepathically, "Now, right hand on your heart, feel the beat, connect with your own center, and repeat aloud what I will say." Arthur placed his right hand over his heart, felt a rapid heartbeat, and the alien began. "I acknowledge," Arthur repeated aloud, his voice trembling. "I acknowledge," the alien continued, "that in past lives I took vows of poverty," Arthur repeated. And as he spoke, he felt the weight of those lives. Franciscan monk, Egyptian scribe, Tibetan ascetic, their presence there with him. And the alien continued. First part, complete acknowledgement. Alien continued. Now validation. Repeat. Those vows served sacred purposes in their contexts. Arthur repeated, his voice gaining firmness. Those vows served sacred purposes in their contexts. And alien continued. They allowed me to focus on spiritual development without the distraction of material wealth, Arthur repeated. And as he spoke, he felt the truth of it. Those monks were not wrong. They lived with integrity in their time, alien continued. I honor those lives and the choices I made in them, Arthur repeated, tears beginning to well up. I honor those lives and the choices I made in them, and felt compassion for past versions of himself. Not rejection, but acceptance, an alien said. Complete validation. Soul feels that you are not rejecting the past, but honoring it. Now, it is receptive to release. Final part, most important, repeat with all the authority you possess. And the alien, his telepathic voice growing more intense. I declare now, Arthur repeated loudly. I declare now, the alien continued, that those vows no longer serve my present path. Arthur repeated, feeling absolute truth. That those vows no longer serve my present path, the alien went on. Context has changed. Purposes have been fulfilled. I am free to choose a new path. Arthur repeated each word, his emotion building, and the alien reached the crucial moment. Now, final command. Repeat with absolute certainty. I release all vows of poverty from all past lives. Arthur took a deep breath and said in a firm voice, firmer than he expected, I release all vows of poverty from all past lives. And as he said it, he felt something. Not imagination, but a physical sensation. An immense weight leaving his chest, as if an invisible rope wrapped around his heart for decades had come loose and fallen. Alien continued. I declare my vows completely dissolved, Arthur repeated, tears now flowing freely. I declare my vows completely dissolved and a feeling of lightness increased. Alien finished. I am free to prosper. I am worthy of abundance. I deserve to receive. I accept wealth with gratitude. So it is done. Arthur repeated each phrase, his voice breaking in sobs, but firm in his intention. I am free to prosper. I am worthy of abundance. I deserve to receive. I accept wealth with gratitude. So be it. It is done. And the moment he said the last word, done, something clicked internally, not auditory, but energetic, like a door locked for centuries finally opening. And Arthur opened his eyes, his face wet with tears, and looked at the shocked alien. I felt something come out. I physically felt something heavy come out. Alien nodded, setting the mirror aside. It wasn't imagination. The energy of old vows was literally trapped in your energy field, mainly around your heart. A conscious declaration of release, with sincere emotion, dissolved the energetic structure. The vows no longer exist. The programming has been deleted, and now your soul is free to allow prosperity to flow without automatic sabotage. Arthur touched his own chest where he still felt a strange warmth and tingling. Is it permanent or will the vows return? Alien replied. Permanent, if you remain certain of the release. If you doubt, if you feel guilt again, and don't confront it, the vows may partially reform. But as long as you remain aware of what you did today, remember that you chose to release and that you have the right to prosper. The old programming doesn't return, and to strengthen it in the coming days, whenever you feel any lingering guilt about money, repeat the statement, I release the vows, I am free to prosper. This reaffirmation prevents any reactivation. Arthur wiped his face with the back of his hand, exhausted, but different, lighter. And now, what happens? Does money just magically appear? Alien shook his head. It's not magic. It's the removal of blockages. Before you were like a dammed river. The water wanted to flow, but the dam prevented it. Votes were the dam. Now the dam has been removed. But you still need to act, work, create. The difference is that now, when you work, results won't be sabotaged. When money comes, you won't feel guilt that triggers self-destruction. When opportunities appear, you won't subconsciously refuse them. The natural flow has been restored. The alien stood up, walked to the window. In the coming weeks, you will observe changes. First, internal guilt about money diminishing until it disappears. Second, external opportunities that didn't come before will begin to appear. Not because the universe has changed, but because you have changed. Your energy no longer repels prosperity. It attracts it. And the decisions you make will be different. Before you unconsciously chose paths that guaranteed poverty. Now you will choose paths that allow abundance not because you force yourself, but because the vow that forced poverty no longer exists. Arthur felt a mixture of hope and residual fear. Decades of patterns don't dissolve emotionally in minutes, even if they have been energetically dissolved. What if it doesn't work? What if the pattern continues? The alien turned, immense black eyes meeting Arthur's with compassion. Then, you haven't truly released it. There's still doubt. There's still a part of you believing that poverty is holiness. And in that case, repeat the ritual whenever you feel doubt, as many times as necessary, until certainty is absolute. But based on the energy I felt when you declared release, it was genuine. You truly released it. Now it's only a matter of time until external life reflects the internal change that has occurred. The alien walked back to the still open bag on the floor, began putting objects back, the mirror last, and said, My ship is destroyed beyond quick repair. I'll need to build a beacon for my race to rescue me. It will take days. Can I stay here while I do that? Arthur, still processing the ritual he had just performed, automatically replied, Of course. Stay as long as you need. It's the least I can do. And, the alien nodded gratefully, then I will watch your transformation begin. I will witness the result of what you did today. It will be interesting. 3 days after the liberation ritual, Arthur was in his backyard workshop working on a dining table he'd ordered the week before the spacecraft accident. While sanding the oak surface, He noticed something different, not in the work itself, but within himself. It was a feeling that always accompanied him when he received payment. A subtle but persistent guilt. A weight in his stomach as if he were transgressing something sacred. He wasn't there. Simply absent. He stopped sanding for a moment, testing it, thinking deliberately, "I'll charge $1,200 for this table. It's quality work. I deserve to be well paid." He waited for guilt to surface, as it always did. But nothing. Only quiet certainty. Yes, I deserve this. Alien was in the corner of the workshop, working on a small device made from parts of the destroyed ship and Earth components that Arthur had provided. A signal to call for rescue from his race, and without lifting his eyes from his work, said telepathically, "First change internal guilt, dissolving." "Did you notice?" Arthur nodded. "It's strange decades feeling weight every time I thought about money now. Nothing, emptiness, where weight used to be, but good emptiness, light." Alien explained while soldering a tiny crystal. Guilt was a symptom of active voting, an internal alarm going off. This violates sacred programming. Now that the programming has been deleted, the alarm no longer exists. And without an internal alarm sabotaging, decisions change naturally. Observe the choices you will make in the coming days. They will be different from old patterns without conscious effort. And the next day, the fourth day after the ritual, Arthur was in a hardware store buying new sandpaper and saw a chainsaw on sale, a tool he had needed for years, but never bought because, "I can't spend that money now. Something will break, and I'll need the money." An automatic scarcity pattern. But this time, he looked at the chainsaw and thought differently. "I need this. It will improve my work. I can buy it." And he bought it. $500 that he would normally save out of obsessive fear of a future emergency. And while carrying the chainsaw to his car, he expected anxiety to come. "I spent too much. I'll regret it." But it didn't. Only satisfaction. "I invested in a tool that will make me earn more." And on the fifth day, the customer who had ordered the table called. Arthur answered, and the customer asked, "How much will it cost?" And Arthur, without hesitating, as he usually did, replied firmly, $1,200. It's high-quality wood. The handcrafted work takes weeks. The customer was silent for a few seconds, and Arthur would normally panic in that silence and lower the price. Or, "I can do it for $900. Instant self-sabotage. But this time, he waited in confident silence. And the customer replied, "Fair enough. You can do it. When will it be ready?" Arthur hung up the phone, shocked. He didn't lower the price. The client accepted without negotiation. An alien observing from the sofa said telepathically, "Second change, external one beginning. Your energy has shifted. You no longer project desperate scarcity. You project calm confidence in the value of your work." Clients feel this subconsciously and respond differently. And on the sixth day, Saturday, Arthur went to the craft fair as he did every Saturday, set up a stall with smaller pieces, and noticed an immediate difference. People stopped more, asked more questions, and a woman picked up a wooden bowl that Arthur had made, asked the price, $80, and she said, "That's expensive." And normally Arthur would immediately lower the price, afraid of losing a sale. But this time, he calmly replied, "It's cherry wood, naturally treated, handmade. It lasts for decades. It's worth the investment." And the woman looked at the bowl again, felt its weight, its quality, and said, "You're right. I'll take it." And at the end of the fair, Arthur had sold 8 pieces, his best day in months, and driving back with the alien in the passenger seat, he asked telepathically, "Is this real?" "It's not a coincidence. A good week happens sometimes." And the alien replied, "It's not a coincidence. It's a consequence. Your energy has fundamentally changed. Before you projected, 'I don't deserve it. I'm sorry for charging.' Now you project, 'I deserve it. This has value.' People respond to energy, not just words, and more changes will come, bigger ones. This is just the beginning." And on the 8th day, Arthur received an unexpected call from an unknown number. He answered. A professional female voice said, "Mr. Bennett, I'm an interior designer. A client of mine saw your work at a trade show last week and wants to order complete furniture for a new house, living room, bedrooms, office. Can we discuss a budget? Arthur, his heart racing, scheduled a meeting for the following week. After hanging up, he stood in silence, processing the news. An order of this size had never happened before. The biggest opportunity of his life. He expected fear to creep in. This is going to go wrong. Something's going to ruin it. But fear didn't come. Only clarity. I can do this. I'll do it well. Alien was finishing the beacon, testing it, a pale blue light flashing in sequence, and said without looking, "A great opportunity has arrived. Before I would have sabotaged it, subconsciously refused or charged such a low price that I wouldn't profit or accepted. But the stress would cause an error that would ruin the project. Observe what you will do this time. It will be different." Arthur spent the following days preparing for the meeting, calculating costs, drafting proposals, and noticed a difference in his mental process. Before he would have thought, what if they don't like it? What if they ask for a discount? What if I can't deliver? A spiral of doubt and fear. But now he thought, I'll show better work, charge a fair price, negotiate with confidence, and if they don't close the deal, other clients will come. A calm certainty where before, there was paralyzing anxiety. And on the 10th day, a meeting with the designer and client, a large house in an affluent Santa Fe neighborhood, a well-dressed middle-aged couple. And Arthur presented his portfolio, explained the process, showed wood samples, and when it came time to discuss the price, he took a deep breath, recalled the ritual. I released vows, I deserve to prosper, and said firmly, for complete furniture, 4 bedrooms, living room, office, with the quality of wood I suggest, in the necessary time, $85,000 payment in 3 installments, down payment, mid, project, and final. Silence filled the room. Arthur maintained eye contact, didn't apologize, didn't offer an immediate discount. And the client looked at his wife. She nodded slightly, and he turned to Arthur. When can you start? And Arthur, controlling his inner shock, replied professionally, I start next week. First piece of furniture delivered in 6 weeks, and they shook hands. Contract signed. The biggest project of Arthur's life and driving back home. Hands trembling on the steering wheel. Not from fear, but from unbelievable accomplishment. Decades of struggle. And in 10 days after releasing vows, life completely turned around. Alien was waiting at home, signal flare ready, and said telepathically when Arthur entered, You closed it. I felt your energetic shift even from a distance. First major manifestation of release, $85,000. More than you earned in an entire year before, correct? Arthur nodded silently, still processing, and sat on the sofa. And Alien continued, And you still haven't sabotaged, haven't lowered prices unnecessarily, haven't doubted your ability, haven't created internal disaster. This is proof that votes were truly dissolved. But Alien paused meaningfully. A bigger test will come. Arthur looked worried. What test? And the alien replied, When the money actually comes in the first installment, tens of thousands in the account, the old pattern will try to reactivate. The part of you that lived in poverty for 32 years will feel fear. This is wrong. I need to get rid of this. And unconscious decisions will try to sabotage it. That will be a crucial moment. If you go through it maintaining certainty of liberation, the transformation will be permanent. If you let fear win, vows may be partially reformed. 2 weeks later, Arthur was staring at his computer screen on the online banking platform, his account balance showing a number he'd never seen before. $28,340. The first installment of the contract deposited. His hand trembled on the mouse, not with joy, but with sudden visceral panic. This is wrong. I shouldn't have this much money. Something bad is going to happen. I need to get rid of this quickly before disaster strikes. Automatic thoughts. A 32-year pattern of trying to regain control. And Arthur felt an overwhelming urge to transfer money to anything, pay off debts that weren't urgent, buy equipment he didn't need immediately, any way to empty his account back into a comfort zone of scarcity. And then, a telepathic voice. The alien was outside, working in the yard, but connected. It's happening. The test I mentioned. You feel panic, right? The impulse to sabotage. This is a crucial moment. Don't act on impulse. Breathe. Remember what you did. Repeat the statement. Arthur closed his laptop, placed his hand on his heart as he had done in the ritual, took 3 deep breaths, and said aloud, "Alone in the room, I have released vows of poverty. I am free to prosper. I deserve this money. I don't need to get rid of it. I can keep it. And use it wisely." And as he said this, the panic lessened, not disappearing completely, but reducing to a manageable level, and a conscious decision emerged. I will not sabotage. I will leave the money in the account. I will use it when necessary, but not impulsively, out of fear. And over the following days, the impulse returned multiple times, seeing an expensive used car that I didn't need. I should buy it, spend that money right away. But each time I paused, breathed, reaffirmed, I don't need to get rid of abundance. I can keep it. And the impulse passed, and gradually over 3 weeks, panic about money in the account completely dissolved, replaced by tranquility. I have resources. I am secure. I can invest intelligently. And one night, a month after the original ritual, the alien called Arthur to the backyard. A full beacon glowing in a complex blue and gold pattern pointed at the sky and said telepathically, "My race will receive a signal in hours. They will come for me before dawn. It's time to say goodbye." And Arthur felt deep gratitude, mixed with sadness. "You changed my life completely. How can I thank you?" Alien turned, his immense black eyes reflecting starlight. "Living fully the freedom you've earned, not letting old vows resurface, thriving without guilt. And when you find others trapped in similar patterns, share what you've learned. Don't keep knowledge to yourself." And Arthur nodded. "I will. I promise." And the alien continued, "And remember, the ritual I taught doesn't require special objects. The mirror of the soul helped to see past lives clearly, but it's not essential. Anyone can release karmic vows through recognition, validation, and a declaration of release. 3 simple steps. The power lies in sincere intention, not in external tools." Arthur asked, "And the bag? The mirror? What happens to them?" Alien replied, "They return with me. They belong to a cosmic museum where we preserve artifacts from ancient Earth civilizations. But the knowledge I shared remains with you, and you can teach others the exact words of the ritual, the mechanics of how vows work. This is a real gift I leave behind." And in the following hours they sat together in comfortable silence, waiting for a rescue ship. And shortly before dawn, light descended from the sky. Not a crashed ship, but an intact, elegant transport, and it landed silently in the yard. The door opening, and the alien picked up a flare gun and an old bag, turned to Arthur one last time. "Arthur Bennett, you saved my life, and I received your life in return. Cosmic balance restored. Thrive without fear. Remember who you are. You are free." And he entered the ship, the door closing, and ascended silently. Arthur watching until he disappeared among the stars. Alone again, but different, completely different. No longer bound by vows from lives he didn't remember, free to thrive. And at that moment, the first light of dawn touching the horizon, he knew with absolute certainty the old life was over. A new life had begun, and this time without sabotage. This time he would allow abundance to flow. 6 months after that night, when the alien left, Arthur was in a new workshop, not a tiny backyard, but a rented warehouse with adequate space, professional equipment, 2 assistants working on projects simultaneously. And he looked around, still occasionally in disbelief. This is real. This is my life now. Prosperity that I had always been able to create but had blocked for decades through vows I didn't even remember making. His bank account consistently maintained a 5-figure balance, not because he had become rich, but because his pattern had fundamentally changed. Money came in through projects. Some was used wisely for expenses and investments. Some was saved, and there was no longer the urge to sabotage to create fictitious emergencies that drained everything. A vicious cycle permanently broken. And deeper than money, guilt had disappeared. He could look at his bank balance without a weight on his stomach. He could charge a fair price for his work without apologizing. He could prosper without feeling like he was betraying something sacred, because he understood now those vows were appropriate for monks in past lives, but didn't suit a carpenter in Santa Fe trying to live with dignity in the 21st century. And a year after the ritual, Arthur was in a small cafe with a man he had met at a fair, Daniel, an artist in his late 42s, talented but perpetually broke. And Daniel was confiding, "I don't understand. My work is good. People love it. But I can never sell it for a decent price. I always lower it at the last minute. And when I sell, well, something always breaks. A car, a computer, always something. It's like I'm cursed." Arthur heard that familiar pattern and felt the responsibility the alien had mentioned to share knowledge and gently asked, "Do you feel guilty when you have money?" Inexplicable guilt, as if you didn't deserve it. Daniel looked surprised. "Yes, exactly. How did you know?" And Arthur told not the complete story of the alien and the spaceship because it would sound insane, but the essence. "I discovered that I carried vows from past lives, promises of poverty made in ancient religious contexts. They were unconsciously sabotaging me, and I learned a ritual to release them. It changed everything. I can teach you if you want." And over the next hour, coffee, cooling, and forgotten, Arthur taught 3 steps, acknowledging that vows exist and served a purpose, validating that they were appropriate in their context, and a firm declaration of release because they no longer serve a purpose. And Daniel did it right there, eyes closed, hand on heart, repeating words. And when he finished, tears were streaming down his face. I felt something, a weight I didn't know I was carrying. It was gone, exactly as Arthur had felt. And in the following months, Daniel also began to prosper. Not overnight, but gradually, consistently. And he told other artists. And Arthur taught the ritual to 5, then 10, then 20 people over 2 years, each carrying variations of karmic vows. Not just poverty, but also celibacy that sabotaged relationships, silence that prevented self-expression, martyrdom that perpetuated unnecessary suffering. And 3 years after the encounter with the alien, Arthur was in his own house, not a mansion, but a comfortable one with a workshop in the back. And he looked out the window at the night sky, remembering that falling spaceship, that impossible being he had saved, and who in return had saved him. And he whispered to the stars, "Thank you, wherever you are. Thank you for showing me that the prison I carried was not my fault, but ancient programming that could be dissolved. Thank you for setting me free." And now, years after writing the story, I want to speak directly to you, the viewer. Because if you've made it this far, if Arthur's story resonated with you, if you also work hard, but money never sticks, if you prosper and then disaster comes out of nowhere, if you feel guilty when you succeed, then you too may be carrying vows from past lives waiting to be released. The truth about recurring patterns. Why do some people do everything right but never get results? Why do they work hard but remain poor? Why is it that every time they prosper, something catastrophic happens? Conventional therapy suggests childhood trauma, family conditioning, self-sabotage, and it attempts to cure through analysis, cognitive techniques, and medication. But what if none of that works? When you spend years in therapy and the pattern continues, what happens when you rationally understand that you deserve prosperity but unconsciously sabotage yourself? Alien showed Arthur what modern psychology cannot grasp. Karmic vows, promises made in past lives with intense emotion. They are etched into the deepest layers of the soul. They carry it through reincarnations. They remain active until they are consciously dissolved. Common types: vow of poverty, perpetual financial sabotage, guilt with money. Arthur's pattern: vow of celibacy, relationships always fail, fear of intimacy, chronic loneliness, vow of silence, inability to express oneself, fear of speaking the truth, suppressed voice, vow of martyrdom, pattern of suffering attracts pain, identity built on victimization, vow of obedience, inability to question authority, compulsive submission. Each vote creates a specific pattern in this life, and you carry it without knowing because it was done centuries ago in a completely different context. How to identify if you have an active karmic vow. 3 clear signs: a destructive pattern that repeats itself, Despite sincere efforts to change the same thing happening decade after decade, conventional therapy doesn't solve the problem. You understand the problem rationally, but you can't change your behavior. Unexplained guilt when it violates the pattern, like how Arthur felt deep guilt when he had money for no logical reason. These three together, active karmic vow, and it can be dissolved. No need for an alien. You don't need a magic mirror. You can do it yourself with the ritual I will teach you, or with our specialized therapists if you prefer guidance. I will leave our email in the description for guided support. The ritual requires 3 simple steps. Step 1. Recognition. Acknowledge that voting exists. I acknowledge that in past lives I took vows of poverty, celibacy, silence, martyrdom. It brings patterns from the unconscious to the conscious. Step 2. Validation. Validate that your vote served its purpose in your context. Those vows served sacred purposes. I honor those choices. The soul doesn't release what it feels rejected. It needs to honor it before letting go. Step 3. Release. Declare with authority that voting is no longer valid. I release all vows I made in past lives that no longer serve my good. I declare those vows dissolved. I am free to prosper, love, express myself, be happy. So be it. It is done. Say it out loud. Hand on your heart with genuine emotion. Tears may come, let them flow. Anger may arise, let it out. Emotion carries intention to the deepest layers of the soul, and when you declare it with absolute certainty, you will feel it. Weight shedding, invisible rope loosening. It's not imagination, it's the energy of votes dissolving. And everyone without exception began to prosper within weeks. Not magically but organically, because the block was removed, natural flow restored. If this story resonated with you, if you identified a pattern that has been repeating itself for years without logical explanation, if you are ready to dissolve old vows and allow life to flow without sabotage, the book, Reconnecting with Your Divine Essence. It's for those who are ready for looking inward instead of searching outside, discovering that all the answers, all the power, all the wisdom already reside within you, waiting to be accessed. Reconnecting with forgotten divine essence, an eternal core beyond temporary identities, traumas, and conditioning that obscure who one truly is. Break through the veil of illusion that separates you from your truth, dissolving layers of programming that made you forget your divine nature. Establish a direct connection with the Creator, not through intermediaries or external dogmas, but through the divinity that has always existed within, dissolving deeply ingrained limiting beliefs that keep you small, dependent, disconnected from your unlimited inner potential. It doesn't matter what happened. What matters is that you made it this far, and that's all. Until the next story.